Hi, Bad Picnic here, talking about True Detective Episode 4. If you've been watching the show, you might have ended up a little perplexed or shocked by the ending of Episode 4. The writers and directors have used a specific technique or device to ramp up suspense for the end of this episode. Let's talk about why this might have been a little confusing for viewers. Let's break down exactly what happens at the end of this episode. Navarro and Danvers have reached the dredge, and they are looking for someone who's been sighted in that area wearing a pink parka, a person they believe to be Raymond Clark.
Someone is clearly using this space, as there is a boombox and a barrel fire. Then we see the symbol, and just as they shine their light on the symbol, someone in the background scampers away. Danvers keeps yelling, "Clark, stop!" and off she goes in hot pursuit. Navarro steps off on her own after hearing someone whisper her name. She looks beneath her, through the metal footbridge, or whatever that is, and sees her sister, face down, floating in water, her blue hair streaming.
Now, here is where the device begins to come into play.
Often, main characters are split up, and the viewers get to see the action both are experiencing at the same time, even though the characters are in two different places. Lots of films and TV shows use this device. It helps keep momentum going, suspense going, and it usually works best in mysteries or thrillers.
So let's call Danvers main character 1 and Navarro main character 2.
Typically, the camera will show MC1 and MC2 in separate spaces and go back and forth to ramp up that suspense. MC2 will often experience something quote unquote bad or suffer consequences related to something MC1 learns or sets into motion by their own actions while in a different space than MC2. Writers are trying to make viewers draw a connection between the two main characters' experiences.
How does this technique work in this episode?
Danvers, MC1, has chased the suspect and eventually cornered them. She inches closer. All the while, Navarro, MC2, is having rather a trippy experience on her own. We've been seeing the action intercut back and forth, using shadow, low light, eerie sounds, and the isolation and unknownness of the dredge to add to the mood. Navarro follows wet footprints. Danvers' suspect lowers the parka hood. It's not Clark. It's Otis Heiss, who mapped the ice cave system and had similar injuries as the Corpsicles. There's a metal plate with drugs. She questions him about the coat he's wearing and Clark. Cut to Navarro. Wet footprints end suddenly. Red lights blink a few feet away. Eerie, distorted music begins to play. Okay, we have to question whether this is really happening. Is she hallucinating? How hard is the show going to lean into the supernatural? I'm here for it. She turns, and there's a blue-haired naked woman silently screaming, probably her sister, from the tattoo. Cut to Danvers. Otis is saying Clark has gone back down to hide. I'm assuming the ice caves where Annie K's last video was shot.
Now, here's where the device and technique might confuse viewers because now we cut to Danvers calling out for Navarro while that scene with Otis is still happening.
To be extra clear, the scene with Otis and Danvers hasn't finished yet. For this technique sometimes to work, there's a jump that shows us MC2 and consequences of information learned during the main character's time apart, and then jumps back to MC1's scene where they get that information, kind of like a staggered reveal. So Danvers is calling for Navarro. MC2's action has ended. MC1 rejoins them, but still has a scene unfinished that we've not seen completely. For whatever reasons, usually to keep that suspense going. Navarro isn't responding. Cut back to Danvers' earlier scene with Otis, still not finished yet, who answers that Clark is hiding in the night country. Back to now. Danvers kneels close because Navarro is sort of catatonic. She pushes back her coat hood to see that Navarro has blood coming from one of her ears. Cut to Otis and the last of MC1's separate scene. We're all in the night country now. Ooh. Back to Navarro, who slowly turns to face Danvers. She looks like she was crying. The camera pulls back and suggests someone has been watching them.
We are absolutely meant to believe that Navarro has ruptured an eardrum like the other victims. Could it just be a concussion from the beating she had earlier? At any rate, I hope this helped make the device clearer so maybe you can understand the ending a little bit better. What do you think? What are your theories? Join me for more Bed Picnic.